You're listening to a Soul One podcast.
All right, we're back. Taylor, for this week, I'm really closing, I would say, a full circle moment with my movie review, because I'm talking about Downton Abbey, the grand finale, and it was on this show that I discovered Downton Abbey by going to see the second movie, Downton Abbey: A New Era, not knowing anything about and ever seeing Downton Abbey.
You pulled a Kathy.
Well, no. I knew it was a second movie and was part of a show. Just didn't know anything about it and just decided to do it. Technically, pulling a Kathy would be you had no idea that It Chapter 2 is a sequel. Yes. So I'm kind of closing that loop because I ended up watching the TV show. So I caught up on what Downton Abbey was, and now the grand finale, the final movie, has happened, and I'm going to be reviewing it this week.
Mike, did you see that in theaters or streaming?
I streamed it. I did not see it in theaters. I missed it because it was kind of just, I think it was like just at the end of the summer, early fall.
But it did get a theatrical
release. It did get a theatrical release, and I streamed it to just kind of wrap it up. I don't think I would have ran. I thought of seeing it in the theaters though. I remember being there was like a weekend or two, and I'm like, oh, I could see the Downton Abbey movie this weekend, but I ended up not doing it. Right. I don't know offhand how these movies have done in the theaters. I know it has a pretty loyal following, and I think from the things I had read, and even from watching the show and the movies, I do think that this entire series did hit its stride in the movies. Like I think the first two movies were quite well done, and they were able to do a lot and make it kind of feel really cool and interesting. And one of the things that Downton Abbey has done, I think, well, is they throw in historical figures in a certain way. Like what drew me and what I liked about that second movie was that it was a lot about the early days of going from silent films to talkies, which I thought was really cool. In this movie, Noel Coward, the playwright, is a character in it, and it talks about some of his early works, which is kind of interesting.
So wait, there's been 3 Downton Abbey movies?
That's right. Yeah, there's been 3. I think the first one was just called Downton Abbey, the movie. And then the second one was Downton Abbey: A New Era, and this was grand finale. So there's been 3 movies, and they had 6 seasons on TV.
And did you watch the shows? You caught up on the show in between watching the movies?
I did. I had to catch up on the show to figure out what was going on, and then eventually I watched the first movie and finally figured out who everybody was. Yeah.
All those gaps were
many gaps. Because the thing about Downton Abbey is I always made fun of it because I thought it was one of those shows that the entire premise of an episode was the Cartwrights were coming to dinner, and how, this is unexpected. And it turns out that is what the show is about. Like, it is just about like people who are at the highest of society dealing with these non-problems, but they have this interesting of like, here's those people and like the servants as well. Right. And you kind of get equal time with both the upstairs, downstairs, they call it, of kind of running this house. But also I think Downton Abbey has a kill count that matches Game of Thrones. They'll take characters out for a show that has no, like, I mean, there's a war that happens in it, so that takes out a bunch of them.
But you don't see the war.
Oh, you see the war. Oh no, you do. Oh yeah, I thought for sure you wouldn't see the war. Oh, you see more of the war than you would expect. Yeah.
Okay. World War I.
The First World War. Yeah. And it's really interesting because the TV show kicks off with the Titanic sinking.
Oh.
And that kind of kicks off the show. Like there's a person who died on the Titanic that is connected to this family in such a big way that it throws like a wrench into things.
Sure.
And right off the bat, that even made me like, oh, that's interesting. But then when they started killing main characters, that's when I thought like, oh, now this is getting interesting. This is really getting interesting. Yeah. So I did watch the show, got kind of a general idea of what it was, and now I'm finishing that off with this final movie.
Okay. There you go.
And then this week you're going to really give us another true streaming classic, I imagine, is with Playdate.
Yeah.
I've seen so many ads for this one. It's like it's all over the place. I'm sorry, it looks so dumb.
It's an Amazon MGM Studios original movie. Yeah. So it would have been, Mike, the best way I can describe this movie is that it very much felt like, I don't know, 2007. And this would have been like a summer movie. But instead it's 2025 and it was straight to Prime. So
haven't seen Kevin James for a while though, you know.
You know what? I will say he is a joy to watch, and he doesn't take himself too seriously, and he's a lot of fun. But
he was always one of those comedic actors that was pretty solid. Like he's, you know, he's pretty good, has good, you know, screen presence. I almost said stage presence, but good screen presence. Like he's
I would describe him as like a serviceable comedian.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get a good comedic performance out of him. Of course, like King of Queens is what he's most known for, probably. Would you agree?
That's I would say
what
so.
I grew up watching him. But it was I was pleasantly surprised because I like Kevin James. I don't have a problem with him. But yeah, it's it was something.
Well, I'll start us off with Downton Abbey because we've already kind of given a nice introduction into that. So I'll dive into Downton Abbey, the grand finale, before we get to that. This is interesting because I find movie adaptations of sort of TV shows, or I should say continuations of TV shows, are always fascinating to me because, you know, you see it with things like Star Trek and other shows that I've watched where I think they always do a really good job of like amping up the stakes, where you go from here's your TV show and you've got to have it sustainable, but then in the movie you do have to make things bigger to a certain degree. And I thought the first two movies for Downton Abbey did a good job of that, because the first one is about literally the royal family visiting the Abbey. Ooh. So that's big for them. And then the second one, I really thought the element of the sort of film being created there was a really interesting plot and a really interesting thing that was going on. And then the B plot was kind of this whole thing around the family might have this connection to this France family they didn't know about, and the kind of Maggie Smith's character might have had some kind of affair with this person, and the one person might not be who they say they are. Like, it was interesting enough to be like, oh, like that is kind of big stakes. This movie to me felt much more like just a long episode of the TV show, which I do think is a little bit of a knock against it, even though I have been on record of saying, oh, one of my favorite Star Trek movies felt like a long episode of Star Trek. So I think sometimes it can work, sometimes it can't. I think this one, the stakes were decent. It's all about kind of the daughter Mary and her taking over Downton Abbey, of running it, which I will say was addressed in a big way in the last movie, and we backtracked a bit in this movie, which confused me. I thought we already handed off the estate to her, but I guess we're still in the process of doing that, because that's really a big part of this movie.
The ink wasn't dry, Mike.
Not fully dry. And what happens, the big incident here is that she gets a divorce, which is a massive scandal in this society, that she's getting divorced to this husband that she married at the finale of the last episode of the series. So she has gone through quite an ordeal where she was married to somebody, had a kid with him, and he dies in the TV show. And then, you know, it took a very long time for her to take another husband, which she finally did. And now they're getting a divorce. So that's kind of put her on the fringes of this society, so this family is trying to deal with mainly that, and kind of her succession into becoming the matron of Downton Abbey. So the movie itself, is, relatively interesting. It again follows like all the other movies and shows. It follows all these characters dealing with this main plot point, trying to figure out kind of what the next steps are. You see where each character is at this point and where they're kind of moving forward. And the movie did a pretty good job of making it a finale and wrapping things up. I will just say, I think when it came to the end, there's this end sequence that was very clear. It's a finale, kind of a montagey look back at something very specific, which I still won't spoil for those who haven't seen it. But I will say that this movie still ended in a way where I'm like, well, not everything's wrapped up. I mean, it is to a certain degree. Yeah, like you definitely could come back where it's like, yeah, like to a degree you've wrapped up. I think the main story is the kind of the mother and father who've been running this abbey. They are kind of passing it off and moving on with their lives and kind of what that looks like. That definitely happens. Things get passed off to Mary. She's going to run the abbey. We get a good sense as to where the other characters are in their lives and where they're going from here. But most of that actually comes from the servant characters. Our kind of rich family characters were already kind of well placed at the end of the show and in the movies as to where they're going next. Most of them are married off. They have kids. They're gone on to their lives. So I kind of felt like we were really just focusing on Mary, and then otherwise all the kind of servant characters got tons of development as to where they're going next in their lives. So I felt like
Spin-off.
The movie kind of had to focus there. Maybe there's some spin-off potential that may come from
Downton Abbey's done, but it's going to be,
that's what
whatever.
it felt like. That's what it felt like to me. Like, again, other than this montage at the end, which they did a good job of kind of wrapping things up and bringing a few characters back, and they did a really nice tribute to Maggie Smith. But I think there was still so much here where it's like, I think they wanted to leave it open to return maybe eventually if they wanted to. Overall, like, if you're a Downton Abbey fan, I think you'll like this movie. I really do. As a more casual Downton Abbey fan, I think it kind of fell a little flat for me. It wasn't as exciting as the past two movies.
There wasn't enough there for you.
No, there really wasn't. Like, the divorce thing, I get in that society why it's a big deal. It just, they still didn't do a good job of making it more of a big deal than it was, if that makes sense. Like, one of the issues with the show is it toes this line between social things where it's like, well, we also want to show that this family is more accepting than other families. But that's not how you create drama. Like, it would have been more powerful if Mary going through this divorce and like her father rejects her. Like, and that was a big thing in the TV series. He would do that a lot. There would be a lot of arguments and fights there. And that's what made the show so interesting, is that you are following this ensemble of characters, and sometimes they say and do things you disagree with. And that makes it interesting, compelling television. I thought this movie was a little too nice.
It sounds like
kind to each other.
It sounds like it was they made it for the fans.
Yeah.
And it's like a cozy movie.
That's right.
They didn't want to, they wanted to end everything with a nice, neat bow, not do too much conflict, and then people who love the series will be happy.
Too cozy for me. So that's why I'm going to give Downton Abbey, the grand finale, a stream it. I think there's still some entertaining moments, a little bit of humor in there, which the show and movies have done well. But overall, yes, I think this is just a love letter to the fans. I think you need a little bit more drama and intrigue to catch my attention.
Mike, I'm going to review my movie pretty quick. Number one, because there's not a lot to review.
Okay, pretty thin. This movie's thin.
Yeah, pretty thin soup. This would not be a nourishing meal on a cold winter's night.
Okay.
And the other reason, I don't think we've had a chance to talk about some of the headlines that have broken over the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
And so I just want to leave a little bit of time at the end. I think there's 2 headlines I sent you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I think 3? Maybe. I don't recall seeing them. I don't know where you sent them.
On Facebook. I messaged you.
Okay.
And you said, yeah, that's great.
Oh, yes. I do remember these. I will pull those up. Yes.
Pull those up for me.
Yeah, you review the movie and I'll pull those up.
Yeah, okay. So I reviewed Playdate. I found this obviously on Amazon. I think it might have been just part of the new releases. I don't even think it was like top 10 that week, but it doesn't really matter how I found this movie because according to Mike, they're promoting it a lot. So clearly they're putting it out there. This movie stars Kevin James, as we mentioned, Alan Richson, Mike, who to me, I just assumed this was a wrestler that has now become an actor, but it looks like he was on Smallville, so he's just an actor and not.
Yeah, he played, I think, Aquaman on Smallville.
Yes. To me, he felt, and this might be controversial. He, to me, Mike, felt like a poor man's John Cena.
Yes, I could understand he feels that way. He's a bit wooden as an actor. Like he's not great.
I assumed I'm like, oh, this must be his first movie coming off of the World Wrestling Federation. I don't think they call it that anymore. And I'm like, I don't know why they didn't pay more and get John Cena, because it just felt like a John Cena. And listeners of the show know that I actually have a soft spot for John Cena. Speaking of wooden actors, I think John Cena can be a little bit wooden, but I have a lot of fun watching John Cena because he doesn't take himself very seriously. And I think he puts in a fun, serviceable, comedic role. So
yeah, it helps that he seems like a just nice
John Cena. Yeah, he just seems like a good guy.
Like, yeah.
So this movie felt like Kevin James and then what should have been John Cena, but instead they got Alan Richardson to play his character. He was fine. Like Mike said, a little wooden. He's not like he doesn't feel like the most experienced actor, which is saying something considering that he was on the CW for looks like 5 years, but it was fine. So the basic premise of this movie is that Kevin James has married a new wife and now has a stepson who just calls him dad, like immediately, which as a child of divorce makes no sense to me. Like, not stepdad, not Brian, which is the name of the character. He literally calls him dad. And I'm like, okay, so this is the type of writing we're dealing with. All right. And he gets fired from a job in kind of like a silly way, and he's gonna try being a stay-at-home dad. And the first day is like a PA day, and he meets Alan Richardson's character, who also has a son, but like his son is very odd, and he is also very odd. And so Brian James's character is kind of just like, he essentially gets like roped into a play date and it's just kind of going along, even though he's like, this guy's really weird, the kid's really weird. And then they start getting chased by like mercenaries, and so like the play date becomes kind of like an action movie.
This does sound like something John Cena should have been in.
Yes, exactly. Like it would have been John Cena would have been great in this movie. Okay, so this is like, the movie is stupid, Mike, but it reminds me of those stupid comedies we would have watched in high school, which were kind of forgettable, but like silly and fun. Like it definitely felt like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, but like Anchorman, like the Judd Apatow movies that came out in that like stretch of the 2000s, 40-Year-Old Virgin, like they're just kind of zany, but they have like really memorable punchlines. Like they're still very funny. This movie felt like it was trying to harken back to that genre of comedy, but it just was so poorly written. Like it was, I would say, well acted. I didn't have a problem with the acting. I thought Kevin James and Alan Richardson do have chemistry. I just felt like the director was working with such a horrible script and like doing the best he can do. Like a lot of the movie, not a lot of the movie, but there's a handful of scenes where they're in a car and they like don't know, it's like the screenwriters didn't know what to do with the kids, so every time they're in a car, the kids are like watching a movie and like have headphones on.
Okay.
And that's like
that's all they have them doing?
Yeah, like every time though.
Oh, okay.
And so like they do play it for like one or two jokes, because it like it'll cut to them watching the movie, and like the movie they're watching is inappropriate for their age, and you're like, oh, that's kind of funny. But like they do that every time, and it's like that works once as like a one-time bit, but then it felt like the writers like didn't know what to do with the kids, so they just always have them put on their earphones. Do you know what maybe I'm not making a lot of sense. It sounds as stupid as it is, as stupid as it sounds.
Yeah, so, it's one of those things that I bet you're doing a great job of explaining it. It's dumb.
It's just stupid. So it's directed by Luke Greenwood, and he's best known for The Girl Next Door, which is a movie from 2004, a comedy from 2004. Again, and it was written by Neil Goldman, who it looks like he wrote for a bunch of television shows like Family Guy, Scrubs, and Community. So he's a television writer. So I think what happened was that Luke Greenfield got handed the script, and as a director, if you're not also a director writer, there's only so much you can do. It's not like he's gonna, correct me if I'm wrong, but like it's not like he's gonna rewrite the scene to give the kids dialogue. I mean, I guess like he could have.
He could, yeah.
But he's like, no, I'm just directing this movie. So that's what it felt like. It just like, and sometimes the characters would like say lines, and you're just like, A, it's not funny, and B, like people don't talk like that. So anyways, this movie to me was like very forgettable. Probably one of the worst movies I watched this year, if not the worst movie I watched this year. I think if you were, which is too bad for Kevin James, because I'm rooting for him. Yeah. I think you could probably watch this on an airplane, Mike, if you like needed to kill time.
Sure.
Because it's like stupid enough that you're like, okay, hour and 40 minutes, whatever. But there aren't any like laugh out loud jokes. Like, because when I think of the movies we watched growing up in high school, like even Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, all these movies had like very memorable scenes, very memorable punchlines.
Yeah. You could call them dumb comedies, but they still had those moments that you like remember that
yes.
worked. Yeah.
This movie was a dumb comedy that was just dumb.
Yeah.
And so I'm even hesitant to call it an airplane it, but
it sounds like a skip it. Like
it's a skip it.
You said it was one of the worst movies you saw this year. That's a skip it.
Let's call a spade a spade. It's a skip it. Okay, we have just a little bit of time left, right, Mike? So we can get into these headlines.
So this one answers a question you and I had and discussed on an episode this fall. So the headline is The Conjuring prequel movie is now in the works. So we are getting a prequel then.
And that was your prediction. I thought maybe we would see Judy and her husband, but you thought, wow, those young actors. But the question will be, Mike, I don't know if you have more information than I do. The question will be, will they use those same actors? Because you were quite taken with the young Warren.
Yeah, they're not confirming that at this point.
Right.
But I would hope that that's the plan, because those two I thought were quite good. So we don't know, but more to come.
Okay.
And we'll keep an eye on that. The second one also is kind of big here, because it says that Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz will return and reunite for a fourth Mummy movie. So she was not in the third one that they did like less than 10 years ago.
And I never watched that. It
was like a big return. And because I think Jet Li played the villain. I never watched it either. So she's coming back for this next one. So that's pretty big. That combo of the two of them was excellent.
So that headline I sent to you, Mike, is from a reputable source, I believe, if not Variety, like something along those lines. But then like a couple days after I saw that, I saw another headline saying Brendan Fraser is open to returning. So I wonder if it's in that rumor stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if because sometimes these headlines happen because one of the actors says, "Oh, I'm open to it," So
and then
it's
they say,
possible,
"Oh, confirmed."
Yeah, now it's exactly. So I think it's probably still in the very early
Rumor.
stages, rumor stages. But if it is happening, it's interesting, and it
I'd
could.
watch it.
Yeah, I would too.
I
Yeah.
also saw, Mike, unrelated or maybe related. Around that time I sent you this headline, I saw another headline saying that they were rebooting The Mummy, but like the Universal Mummy, like Universal
Yeah.
Studios,
Yes.
which technically the Brendan Fraser movie is Universal Studios, but like it goes back to like the 1930s. And so the question remains, are there going to be 2 Mummy movies?
Yeah.
And like one is going to be kind of like a reboot of like the 1930s franchise, kind of that dark universe that Universal wanted to do with Tom Cruise. Or was that headline referring to the Brendan Fraser Rachel Weisz movie? So lots of mummy buzz. One of my absolute favorite movies from my childhood. Wanted to be an Egyptologist. So
Mhm.
I will be definitely looking forward to any
Yeah.
news that's coming out in the
Yeah.
next little while about it.
I hope it's this one. That would be my hope, and to leave the other kind of darker ones just dead, and let's keep it light and fun. I would be down for a fun action movie like this. Like, I think, nice popcorn summer movie. I think they can do well with it. After seeing Top Gun Maverick, I'm happy for them to revisit these things if they do it that well. And if you can bring back the original actors in a good way, then I'm all for it.
Will they bring back the annoying son from the second movie?
They'd recast him though. They'd have to. Like, the kid was like, they'd have to. They'll recast. They'll have someone else play the son. It'll be one of the new younger actors, whatever.
It'll be the other Elvis.
Or just pull a Stranger Things kid. Like, just you got some other choices. But there you go. That wraps things up once again this week. Thank you everybody for listening.
Go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.